Hey, everybody, I got a story for you that is almost, well, unbelievable. And I would say that this is a story that proves the existence of God. Now, a lot of people will argue with me. They'd say, oh, no, there's a good reason for that. And maybe they could find one, but it's hard for me to find one outside of God. And so what I want you to do is be thinking about your God story. And then if you have a moment, write me and let me know what that God story is. But here is mine. A few years ago, I was traveling on a regular basis to Omaha, Nebraska when I was working for a staffing firm out of Atlanta. We were filling slots for Kellogg's that was on strike, and every single week I was going to the same location. We were onboarding people to fill up Kellogg's with workers so that they could keep their products on the shelves during the strike. Well, during that time, we lived in Georgia, and I had my concealed carry permit. Sometimes I would have my 9mm in my backpack and it would be with me, but I had my concealed carry, card. And so I was legit. I had gone and done all the right things. Well, one of these times that I was going to Kellogg's, I got a late notice. It would often come like Thursday or Friday. Hey, you've got to go again this week. And it happened that way. And without thinking, I reached and got my backpack and I went and got my duffel bag and everything I needed to go for my overnight trip to Omaha. So anyway, I'm flying through the airport, trying to get everything done. I have TSA pre-check, and so I go through that side, and if you have that, you get through a little bit more quickly and so forth. And I get my bags, and I rush, and I get on the plane, and it's always the same gate there and the same gate back and all that stuff. So anyway, I get on the plane, and I'm flying to Omaha, and somewhere at around 35,000 feet, it occurs to me that I hadn't taken that 9mm out of my bag. And I just grabbed my bag from underneath my seat. I kind of slowly pulled it forward, my backpack, unzipped it, and stuck my hand down in that bag. And there was a loaded 9mm gun. And I'm sitting 35,000 feet in the air. And even though I know that I somehow or another got through TSA pre-check without them finding it, and we'll talk about that in a minute, I kind of start to break out into a sweat. I get kind of cold and clammy, and I was like, I've got to get off this plane and soon. So we were on our descent when I figured it out, and thankfully we landed. I got off I grabbed my bag, and I got out of that airport as fast as I could. I got my rental car, went over to the hotel where I was staying, just shocked. And just beyond shocked that I carried a loaded 9mm gun onto a plane, and realized, again, this feels like a God story. I got in my hotel, and just across the parking lot, there was a Bass Pro Shop. So I was able to go over to the Bass Pro Shop, buy the appropriate case, that you really need if you're ever going to carry a handgun, and you have to check it through and all of that. And I told the man behind the counter what happened. His mind was blown, just like mine was and still is. And then when I went back, obviously, I put the gun in an appropriate case, had it locked, and, put it under the plane like you're supposed to do. But think about that for just a minute. How is that possible that in this day and age, and we're talking about 4 or 5 years ago, I was able, unintentionally, to carry onto a plane a loaded 9mm gun? Now, tell me how that doesn't involve God. I mean, because I would have been arrested. I would have been considered a felon. That would have been my record forever. I would never be able to probably hold down a job in ministry again or anything like that. And I think to myself, did God blind the man or woman who was sitting behind the screen? How is it possible that my bag, just a backpack, down on the bottom, had a loaded Sig Sauer 9mm gun in the bottom of the bag, and it wasn't seen? I cannot explain that outside of God. It's as if God blinded that person. They didn't see it. They got busy. They turned their head. I don't know. I just know that it happened. And I know that because it happened and because no one ever found out, and here I am revealing it to you just as a part of a story, that is one of the many ways I can say there's a God. I was telling this story recently at a Bible study with a bunch of guys that I sit around the table with, and all of them were just cracking up. And we had talked about how what's said around this table stays around the table. But the next time we got together, they all laughed and said, oh yeah, what's said around this table stays around this table. But I had to tell my wife about your 9mm story. Well, that's my story. And that's my God story. What's your God story? Probably doesn't involve a 9mm gun, 35,000 feet in the air, but maybe it involves God doing a healing, or God bringing something into your life, or God providing something just at the right time, doing something for you that only God can do. I'd love to hear it. Please share it with me. I'd love to hear and celebrate that good God story with you. God bless you. We'll see you next week. Keep walking with Jesus. I'll do the same. Take care.